welcome to today's session. The topic of today's session is gaining control of supply chain quality, how low code is changing the way to look at supply chain management. My name is Lucian Zaborowski. I am the Associate Director of Marketing here at Creatio. And today we have some really great speakers with us from our partner, Industry Reply, as well as our own Nandish Madapati. So we're very excited. So without further ado, let's start and getting right into it. We will start today's session with introductions from our lovely speakers, and then we will go right into the session and have them tell you all about the topic of today's webinar. So we have Jason Miller, Associate Partner and Head of Customer Experience in Industry Reply. We have Maggie Wang, the Lead Analyst at Industry Reply, as well as Nandish Madapati, an Enterprise Solution Manager at Creatio. So without further ado, I am going to hand over to Jason for his introduction. Jason, off to you.
Well, thank you very much, Lucian. I appreciate it, and I appreciate everybody attending today. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Jason Miller, Associate Partner and Head of Customer Experience for North America here at Industry Reply. I've been working in a variety of roles for the past 15 plus years, helping customers drive supply chain and customer experience implementations across multiple industries. So thank you very much. I'll go ahead and pass it over to Maggie.
Hi everyone, I'm Maggie Wang from Industry Reply. I'm a senior analyst. I'm glad to have this opportunity to discuss supply chain quality with you today. Now let's welcome Nandish.
Thanks, Maggie, and good afternoon, everyone. This is Nandish Madapati, Enterprise Solution Manager here at Creatio. About 20 years of work experience, 15 of which primarily in the CRM space. Very excited to be on this webinar, working with Reply on supply chain solution. Before we get the Reply, folks introduce themselves for more about their company. Wanted to give you a very quick highlight overview of Creatio. We are a multinational company with offices in 3 different continents. We have over 650 employees, half of which are dedicated for development. And that speaks to the technological advantage and advancement that we have, and been rightly recognized by industry experts like Gartner and Forrester in multiple waves. We are also heavily partner driven, and that explains why we have Reply over here. And that gives us a wide variety of span coverage in Latin America and Africa and many other places that we currently don't have offices in. With that, I'm going to switch over to Jason and have him walk through the remainder of the supply chain solutions. Back to you, Jason.
Appreciate it, Nandish. Would like to give everybody a quick introduction to Reply. If I can go back here. All right, there you go. So Reply is a global system integrator. We're headquartered out of Turin, Italy. We're just like any of the big global SIs. We cover a variety of technologies. We've got over 8,000 professionals worldwide, and have continued to see double-digit growth every year for the last 20 plus years. We did about 1.2, 1.3 billion US last year. We've got offices in 26 locations all around the globe. We've continued to grow here in the US and have been here since 2013. And today we represent over 500 professionals inside the United States. A little bit more about our practice and CRM and CX. Our company as a whole, we are rated very heavily for our supply chain experience as well as our customer experience implementation practice. Both of these reports have been newly published by Gartner. We are a leader, one of 7 in the CRM and customer experience implementation practice, and we are a visionary in the WMS and supply chain execution space. Today's topic really covers both of these spaces. It's how we've tied our experience for customer engagement as well as supply chain execution to solve a very unique problem that can be applied to a lot of different solutions. So if you have any questions towards the end, we'll be able to answer those today. A little bit more as we go through here. Industry Reply, who we are is Reply is a network of companies. So it's not like the traditional global SIs where you have industry verticals and technology horizontals. We're a network of companies, 130 plus. Each one of us is a COE in its own right, focusing on specific issues, and we bring both technology and business knowledge to the table. So Industry Reply, we are focused on bringing innovative solutions to address customer supply and value chain needs. So this covers the entire spectrum, all the way from logistics through manufacturing, all the way up to customer experience and customer engagement. We also focus very heavily on industry-specific applications. We've got 200 folks, almost 200 here in the US, and then we've got 200 customers in 5 continents worldwide. We do all of our development in-house between our Chicago and Detroit offices, and we continue to expand every day. So let's talk about some of the current supply chain challenges that we see out in the market. So with recent global events, we've really seen a lot of exposure that's been driven into global supply chains. There's a lot of lessons that have been learned, and we'll have to apply those, over the next, coming months and years. But those lessons have been learned over the past few months really need to be addressed as we move forward. And they cover a variety of topics. We see companies that continue to struggle with some of the basic supply chain principles. As we've seen, global supply chains are struggling in not only responsiveness, but also their ability to handle stress during these times. Companies are struggling with a mismatch of demand and supply. They're struggling with their response in order to meet the new fulfillment rates. On top of this, due to the surge of demand, more items of poor quality have been introduced to the supply chain. Great example is a lot of the N95 masks that have hit the market. They're not necessarily up to the normal specs that you would see for N95 masks. So these struggles, as well as others, have led to delays and misalignment of the overall supply chain, ultimately resulting in poor performance and many of the struggles that we're seeing today. So what I'd like to do really quick is let's take a poll. So if we can do a poll really quick, we're going to ask you a question. And the question is, which areas of supply chain and issue management have the greatest opportunities for improvement? So we're going to put a poll up here. So go ahead and click on your answer. We'll take a minute or two here to get all this information pulled together. And if we think about some of the issues that you may see, there's 4 answers here: data, issue tracking, effectiveness, and visibility. Data would be the availability of data. How do we get data? Do we have the right data to help us make decisions? Tracking would be capturing of any issues so that we can ensure that problems are identified and resolved. Effectiveness would be how well are we updating issues? What type of frequency? Do we have alignment across BUs? Do we have good communication? Visibility would be the ability to rationalize things. How do we present them? How do we consume them? How do we make them presentable in such a way that we can have effective communications? So we'll give everybody just another 5 or 10 seconds here to answer. So please go ahead and lock in your answers. And just think about how these things apply to the overall supply chain today and some of the struggles that we've seen. All right, let's see the results. Not surprising, it's very split. And this is exactly what I was kind of assuming we'd see, because all of these are issues. Each one of them is its own unique issue. So let's talk about these, and let me present you with a case study and our inspiration for the solution that we've got today. So our case study that we've got, and let me see, why is it not advancing? There we go. This came from a homegrown problem that one of our largest customers had, CNH Industrial. They are the agricultural and construction branch of Fiat Chrysler. Okay, they're a global leader in agriculture and construction around the world. They had 12 sites across the US, 12 depots that they have various parts in to help feed not only their manufacturing operations, but also their secondary parts. They've also got a centralized global quality team that's located up in Racine, Wisconsin. So some of their challenges that we're facing were those ones we were just talking about: communication, inefficiency between the central quality team and the warehouses, time zone difference, geographical diversity. They were also having issues with tracking all of the things that were coming up. Some folks were working in the evenings, identifying issues in the evenings. Some of them were working in the mornings. They were also having lack of visibility, lack of reporting, lack of performance monitoring. So all of these led to the overall issue that they asked us to solve. So we also have a proprietary solution for their WMS, and this WMS is something that they use all over the world. They asked us to tie this in with a CRM system to solve this issue so that they could get the total visibility and have some of the workflows that they were looking for. So we chose Microsoft Dynamics at the time. This was 18 months ago, because we had multiple Microsoft Dynamics instances in-house. That was good and bad because we already had the technology, we knew the warehousing system, we knew the CRM system, so we were able to apply it. That really was our kind of inspiration for this whole thing. But what we found was that there were some challenges. And what we said was, let's think about now how we can apply newer technologies, newer processes, and BPM to this same instance. And that's what led us to the solution that we're going to showcase today. So if we think about it, what's a better way to help simplify things that move things in a shift left mentality? Use a low code solution. So as we look at low code solutions, what we've got is a new opportunity to enhance our processes. So let's talk a little bit about the low code solution and how it can help us achieve those same outcomes that we previously did using a full weight CRM platform. Now we knew the process flows, we knew the WMS, so in theory it should be simple, right? Well, not really, because while we were doing the work for CNH, we found out that because they were working across multiple teams, working across broad business groups and across various brands, it wasn't easy. So trying to align those systems, processes, and people often felt very difficult. Making things more difficult was they had a decentralized IT team that was managed primarily out of Italy. So in fact, the IT processes were managed by a completely different group that didn't necessarily understand the business processes. So things changed. It took a long time to make those changes and get things aligned. By using the low code methodology and that shift left approach, you're able to empower folks that are closer to the business in a citizen developer, citizen power user approach to be able to speed up those changes. So let's continue on and talk about how this is going to be used. So by using a low code platform, you're able to break the cycle and move things closer to the business, helping the citizen developers complete the changes quickly that previously would have taken much longer going through the normal IT processes. Now, change management is still important, and a lot of places will say, look, we've got to have the IT controls because we know how this works. That's fair. But by using a unified low-code platform, you're able to quickly define the processes and the tasks that you need to complete these changes across multiple business units. In today's example, we're going to highlight just a few of these areas. And if you look at some of the different tasks here, right? Communication and collaboration, request management, document management, and inventory management, all from a single application. Now, by no means is this the end all. We have the ability to expand this well past this. This solution can be extended well past just these areas and looking at multiple other areas. You could reach these things all the way back into R&D and engineering. But I think throughout the process today, we'll highlight these 4 areas, but you'll be able to get the idea of what we can drive and how we can be effective. So as we look at this, let's look at how low code can be applied within the supply chain. So going back to those 4 topic areas that we talked about. So our business story before this issue management system was put in place for the client was they had very fragmented data. Never a clear understanding of what information was out there or how to use it. They also had very manual issue tracking processes. Usually it was at the warehouse level, never global visibility. Sometimes issues were raised up to central quality, but never a holistic approach. They also had a lot of misalignment, lack of communication, not only between the field and central quality, but also between various brands and various business units. This led to obviously delays in issue identification, issue closure, etc. Also, there was no way to consume this data. There was no way to visualize it. People couldn't understand what was out there, therefore they couldn't make it actionable. So what we were able to do is we were able to work with them and develop a holistic issue management system. Now, from a data standpoint, we were to help them go from fragmented data to a unified and enriched item master. This gave a holistic view across all the data. It also was integrated heavily with the WMS. From a tracking standpoint, what we were able to do is we were able to take that decentralized manual tracking process at the warehouse and move it into a full issue history and tracking, so you could run it from start to end, cradle to grave. This also utilized a central database so that everybody had full visibility. From an effectiveness standpoint, instead of having so much misalignment and lack of communications, you were able to have real-time updates and accurate dispositions of all of the inventory or issues across the entire network. And then visibility. We were able to take those local manual reports and no dashboards into a single unified place where everyone could see all of the dashboards, all of the information. So now when we look at this, we looked and said, how do we now apply low code to this? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn this over to Maggie, and Maggie's going to walk you through our solution a little bit and how we were able to take those principles and that idea that we were able to implement for CNH in the past using Dynamics and apply the Creatio low-code, no-code platform to this same problem in a much easier way. So Maggie, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Jason. So to overcome the business challenges we mentioned earlier, we built our solution based on Creatio Studio product. We have leveraged on the ease of business process management Creatio platform offered and added intense data integration with warehouse management system. Our issue management system is acting as a centralized information hub in the middle and tying all the players together. So as a result, players like customer care, central quality user, or warehouse workers will be aligned with full visibility to the issue status. Now let's take a deeper look into the business process. So the process gets triggered when the issue is raised. A part issue can be identified from different sources. For example, an issue can be created by customer care from angry customer, or by a quality engineer or warehouse worker. After the issue is created, the quality engineer will review the issue, and if it's a local issue, then you'll be sent to the corresponding depot. And if it's a global concern, then you'll be broadcasted to all the depots to do the inspection. Once the message gets delivered to the warehouse management system, the inspector will log the stock and proceed with the inspection. Then the inspection result will flow back to our issue management system. And based on that, the engineer can apply different kinds of disposition as needed to fix the issue. The disposition decision will be sent back to the warehouse management system, and they will scrap or rework the part as instructed. After the job is done, the quality engineer can then close the issue. So this is the whole business process from the issue start to the closure. In order to support our process, we have designed the below data model. The first concept is issue master. This defines the issue at highest level. It is also the main object user is working with. And within the issue master, you can have many issue details. Each detail represents the real condition for the specific handling unit. And with all the details gathered from the warehouse, user can proceed with root cause analysis and do different types of disposition as needed. There's no limitation on the type, plus partial disposition is also allowed. Now we have seen the business process and data model. Let's dive into the system and check them. So once user logged in, the landing page is the issue overview dashboard. It provides real-time performance monitoring to all issues in the system. For example, we have some KPI-related charts and calculated fields showing here. And over here, you can display the web page for the warehouse management system. Showing this will reduce the effort for user to navigate to another system. And from the dashboard, the team lead can directly view the list of unassigned issue master and work with them. Once you open the issue master, you will see the page layout like this. The goal here is to help user understand the issue with minimum user effort. We have some generic info about the issue master as well as the issue description. Most of the attributes here are auto-filled by system. On the issue master record itself, we're also showing all the details under the issue. This layout provides user one-stop experience. You can immediately review the issue along with the details without any additional clicks. Now, after the quality user define the issue, they need to let the warehouse know there's a quality concern about this part. So how do we spread the message to the warehouse? Here we developed the issue broadcasting functionality on Issue Master. So using the drop-down button here, the integration will be triggered to spread the message to the selected warehouse or to all warehouses. As we're showing here, once the message gets sent successfully, you will get a window prompt. And on the right-hand side here, this is the message content system is sending. Now the issue has been delivered to the warehouse. The warehouse management system will generate the detail and enter the inspection result here. This is a snapshot of the issue detail page. It shows the real condition about the specific handling unit in the warehouse. And once all the inspection is done for this issue, you'll see the list below showing the status as inspected. Now, with all the inspection completed, it is ready for a user to do disposition. So the disposition is the last step of the entire process. In order to give user an efficient experience to disposition, our solution offers two ways to do it. The first way is very convenient if you want to apply the same disposition type to all the details. User can simply select the corresponding type on the issue master page, and this will trigger the integration, sending out the message to the warehouse management system. However, we totally understand there are always exceptions to make. For example, you need to split the disposition. And to avoid user adding disposition for each detail one by one, we have developed this editable grid for our custom detail. You can directly enter the disposition type and quantity directly from the grid. And being able to edit from list is definitely one of the favorite requests from customer. This is a time saver for users. Although this is not easy to do with other CRM products, we're very excited that we can do this with Creatio. So once click this mark button, a disposition record will be created and sent to the warehouse management system via web service. In general, the second way here suits better for exceptions. And after the disposition message been delivered to the warehouse management system, the operator in warehouse will follow the instructions and do the physical disposition there. Once the job is done, they will mark it as dispositioned, and the integration will be triggered to send it back to us. Once all the details are updated, the issue master can be automatically closed by system. So this completes our system demo for today. Hopefully you will find it inspiring in some way. Now, let me pass it over to Jason. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maggie. And for at the end of the demonstration today and at the end of the presentation, we're going to give everybody some contact information to be able to reach out to Industry Reply, as well as reach out to Creatio team to learn more about the product. So without further ado, what we're going to do now is we're going to talk a little bit more about the Creatio platform. So Nandish, if we can turn it over to you and you can talk a little bit more about the Creatio low-code, no-code platform.
Hey, thanks, Jason. This was very, very interesting for me because typically when I think about Creatio as a studio product, I think about a one, or a niche business process, but not entirely as a solution. And also the only solution that I've seen outside of what you should display today with the warehouse management is the financial services. simply because that's this target for us. But this is amazing because of it caters to a completely different industry, and the solution is very niche and unique. So I'm very excited about that. So I'm going to use the most professional word that I can find and say it is cool. How does that sound? Anyways, what I want to take to the next of the presentation is to say why is Creatio a great platform and not just a business process engine to come up with new solutions. So starting with 7.16, and we may have covered this a bit, is that we are now extending our studio part as not only as a one and done business process workflow, but as a platform to solve industry vertical solutions. So what that means is we're no longer just looking at process modeling and documentation, but we're also looking at administration tools. We are looking at application design, application lifecycle. Now, why is that important? It is important from many, many respects, because outside of being able to build these workflows, like the way Maggie and Jason were talking about the warehouse management issue, item not working scenario, you also need to ultimately be able to monetize your solution. So from an administration tool side, which is on the bottom left-hand side, you need to manage the number of users who have access to the application. You need to have different access rules to those individuals. So you don't want people to go in, make a request, and then go back and modify that request. So there needs to be some sort of a control mechanism on what they can do. And from a monetizing system as well, you need to know how many users have access to this application, so that as you sell this solutions through our marketplace or on your own, there needs to be some sort of accountability that you can tie directly to the almighty dollar. So that's what the administration tool is focused on. From the application life cycle, this is all about applications being continuous improvement, continuous delivery. So the feedback collection module that we're talking about is to collect feedback from the end users, understand what kind of experience they're going through, and be able to take it and intelligently monitor that, and being able to develop new features, functionalities in due course of time is what we're talking about in here as well. And finally, while technology is great, it is also important that developers find it easy and much simple to develop new applications. Otherwise, they're not going to use that platform. And I think Jason and Maggie talked about why Creatio was a great platform for them for that. So what we mean specifically from the application design is user experience or developer experience on developing new web pages or new pages, custom objects, custom APIs, leveraging the machine language to do some predictions or next best actions, ability to use mobile natively for the new applications that you build. So that's basically what the platform is all about. So next time when you're pitching Creatio Studio part to your prospects, don't just think it as a one and done business process, but think about it from an applications perspective, and we have tools to do so. Now, specifically on the business process side, what have we done? So one of the biggest challenges that we have is that business process can be very complex. You know, we look at the supply chain in here, but typically business process entails working with cross departments. We're talking about legal, finance, warehouses, sales, maybe customer service. So there's a lot of those people that needs to touch those workflows. So you need to manage those complex workflow processes, as you can see from the slide in here. So what have we done? So number one, we made sure that we are industry standard with BPM and 2.0 notations. Why is that important? Well, the reason is when people come in from another application to Creatio, we want to make that experience very seamless. So when it is an industry standard BPM and 2.0 notation, it's almost like using a PDF file, right? It's very easy to port that data into Creatio. And for whatever reason they want to exit out of Creatio later on, that is also a selling point, because sometimes people say, well, what if I want to take all of my business process, get it to another platform? Well, there is BPM and 2.0 notation that you can do as well. So we are completely standardized with that. So it's very easy to understand what that process looks like. But one of the biggest issues that we hear over and over again from business process analysts is that, hey, I have these business processes that I have either sketched on a whiteboard or on a Microsoft Visio, and now how do I bring that into your platform? So our developers have solved that problem by introducing Studio Free, right? So with Studio Free, you can have all of these collaborations built within different departments. And not only that, number one, it's free. Number two, you can attach documentation. And number three, you'll be able to export this as a BPMN, just like what you're seeing on the screen. And once you export that as a BPMN from a Studio Free, you'll be able to import that very file into the Studio Enterprise, and that image or that workflow gets automatically imported to the Studio Enterprise. And all you have to do is to click on each record and associate it to whatever record that or object that record is pertaining to, whether that be a lead, whether that be an issue or warehouse management item, ticket, or whatever that may be. So that is part of the business process. Now, oftentimes when you talk to other low-code platforms, either machine language is an additional cost, or if it is free, it can only do like 3, 5, or 10 predictions, and that is not going to work for enterprise companies, right? So what we do is we obviously supply machine learning models, some of them out of the box, some of them can be streamlined according to whatever custom objects that you create. So you can do a couple of things, right? So once you do whatever predictions that you want to do, what we have done next is also to give the predictions or predictive recommendations. So what we mean by that is based on historical data, when a certain item has come through of a certain product category, these are the next best actions that we can predict. And from a retail side, this could be a next best offer, or from banking side, this could be a next best product or a financial product. So those predictive recommendations are extremely helpful from a low-code perspective. And not only that, there is unlimited predictions that you can do with Creatio, which is very helpful. And you can extend machine language in many areas that is not possible in other low-code platforms. Now, Jason was talking about data, and those data is great because you generate a lot of data. But from a management perspective, you need to analyze that data and analyze that data on a real-time basis. So what we have done with Creatio is to provide deep analytics. Most of the low-code platforms don't do that, and oftentimes you will have to export that as an Excel file and bring it into some BI tool like Power BI or say Tableau, and that is an additional cost for a company. So we can help minimize those costs by having these analytics, deep analytics, and colorful graphics, whether that be a chart or a pie chart or a list or a gauge or whatever you can think of. You can do that within Creatio. That's also a cost saver. Oftentimes that is overlooked is the ability to print information from Creatio. Now, why is this important? Well, when you think about from an order management or from a ticket management or from a yearly perspective, how many tickets did we do? All of those reports need to be sent to the upper management. Wouldn't it be nice to have a single click from Creatio where you can create a report either as a PDF or as a Word document and send it directly to your superiors? That would be amazing, right? So this is another huge differentiator for Creatio over other low-code platforms. Now, global search is, I use this quite a lot personally within my within the work CRM that we have internally at Creatio. So anytime I need to search for an account, I can simply type it in, and basically the search has been optimized so that these results come out much faster. But more importantly, as you can see from the graph or from the screenshot, they're also categorized by where they show up. If I want to see, in this case, say Alexander Wilson, in a case, I simply have to click on the case. If I have to click on accounts, I can click on that. So it will not only show you all of the search results, but also segment that by different records. So that is amazing from building a application. The license manager is also all about managing users. Maybe you want to assign bulk license to a bunch of people. Maybe you need to take them away when they leave the organization. So managing those end users is also important from giving and taking licenses away, and also managing changes. So what kind of changes have happened for a specific object? Maybe it's incident management, maybe it is an order management, whatever it is. If you want to understand how many changes have been done, you can manage that as well. And finally, mobile, right? So when these days, mobile is table stakes. Like, you cannot ignore that. Whenever you build an application, that mobile must be available. So we have gone mobile native. What that simply means is that the synchronization of data is about 6 times faster, right? And so when people are on the field and there is an issue with warehouse management, like Jason was talking about, and the sales rep gets asked about that question, the ability to provide that information as quickly as possible is extremely critical. And this is just not just only on the supply chain side, but this can be extended to, say, banking industry. This can be extended to the retail industry, CPG industry you can think of. So this is basically a summary of all of the technological advantages that Creatio will provide for a developer to build custom applications using our Studio product. But that's not all, right? So when you build an applications, you also need an ecosystem of people who can help you build these applications in a trustworthy way and also in a much faster way. And we recognize that, and we do that through a couple of things, right? Number one is documentations. We've invested a lot specifically on the developer's guide so that you can get the best of the resources, video tutorials to start developing applications very quickly. But sometimes those documentations may not necessarily be enough, so you have to take trainings. And within trainings too, it varies, right? Some engineers like to take training by themselves. Some like to be guided. Some like to be go into a formal training class. Irrespective of what you're trying to do, Creatio has a solution for that. So not only from a technological side, we are also looking at from a educational side so that we give you the best experience from a developer side to continue to develop newer and newer applications in Creatio. And finally, there is community. So this has been a favorite or a personal pet project, I think, for our CEO, Catherine Kosteriwa. So she's invested a lot on the community side. And the reason is very simple. There is a lot of knowledge out there, Jason and Maggie included, who sometimes know Creatio much better than we do, right? So there is a lot of knowledge that they built up that we want to share within our developer network so that we can come up with more cool applications. So whether that be user events or programs or community portal, whatever that may be. So the three things that highlights in here is the meetups. So over here on a monthly basis, our the product owners of Creatio and technical leaders have a conversations to make sure that the answers in the community that other citizen developers have submitted or answered are meeting up to our Creatio standards. So we want to make sure that we achieve high standards and not some vague answers are being given out. There's also a community digest so that everybody knows what is going on from a development perspective. And more importantly, from when a citizen developer submits a lot of and participates in the community, we want to recognize that for their skills and recognize them from a loyalty perspective as well. So overall, what we are trying to say is when you think about Studio, we should no longer think about it as a one and done business process, solving a business solution, but as an application that can be extended to solve a variety of solutions. And we have the technology to help you do that. And also we have the ecosystem of academy, community, and trainings to help you accomplish to do so as well. And with that, I'm going to pass it right back to Luchan for any Q&A.
Thank you very much, Nandish. Thank you very much, Jason. Thank you very much, Maggie. We are a little bit ahead of time, which is great because we can use that time for the Q&A, and so we encourage you. Let's put some tough questions to these guys, and please use the chat to do so. Whatever that comes to your mind from what was just presented, or even beyond. We would love to talk to you, and let's use this time for a discussion. And so I will pitch the questions to the team, and we have already a few of those. So let me start with the first one I have in front of me. And the question is, and I think this one is a very good one to Jason, and the question is, how has the process and solution helped to improve the quality in the supply chain? And Jason, I think this question kind of is two ways. One is, how does it help in general, the process and solution, but then also specifically to the case studies that you mentioned, I think, and how it applies to the customers that you work with?
Yeah, so let's start with the general answer. And the general answer is anytime you have issues within the supply chain, be it quality, be it availability, visibility, whatever, you have a problem, right? Because if you're in CPG, manufacturing, retail, e-commerce, 3PL, it doesn't matter. Your job is to get product or service to the end customer. So anytime that you have a break in that supply chain, you're ultimately slowing down that service or that product to the end customer. So I think all of us are smart enough to realize that that's going to impact, revenues, it's going to impact reputation, it's going to impact bottom line. So that's kind of the in general. Now, specifically for this particular use case, and again, what we found was when we did this within Dynamics, because we didn't have Creatio available at the time, because it was 2 years ago, and the platform wasn't available to us at that point in time. But what we found was that by consolidating this, we were able to help them take those issues, right? Instead of having a drug out issue, so identified at one warehouse, and then 3 months later it's identified at another warehouse, and then one actually made it into manufacturing, got out to the field or whatever. You were able to more quickly identify the issue, resolve the issue, and disposition the issue, so that you didn't have that impact further down the stream. It's the same thing with the shift left method mentality when you're talking in IT, right? The further up the chain you can address an issue and disposition that issue, the more effective the entire chain is. So I think that's kind of the specific issue. So ultimately, it led to more early identification, more clear and early disposition, and therefore you didn't have breaks further down on the supply chain.
Awesome, thank you, Jason. And I think the second question is very similar. Actually, you partially already addressed it, but the question is, can this solution be applied to anything other than manufacturing? And I think you kind of said so already, but maybe there's something more to add here. I think it is a solution that can really be applied quite widely, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the whole idea behind the Creatio platform, and specifically with Studio in this case, is that you have this platform that can be applied in so many different solutions. And Nandish mentioned it, right? It's not just a one solution for one problem. You can apply these anytime you have a business process that you want to automate, drive efficiency, gain more visibility. You can do this. Just some of the ones that we're already thinking about, right? Field service will probably be another one that we're going to develop here. Anytime you want to get into 3PL, if you're having an issue with cross-docking and you're missing shipments on a pallet, right? You can build this same type of solution into any single place where you have a business process to help make it more efficient. And that's going to be even more important as we come out of this quarantine and we get back to whatever the new normal is going to be. How do we better prepare ourselves, and how do we take the lessons learned from this very stressful period that we're in right now? How do we take those lessons learned and apply them to the future, so that, if we even talk about COVID right now, if we have a second wave or a third wave, or this thing gets drug out however long, depending on what region you're in, how do we make sure that we can continue to not only operate, but be successful and even drive efficiency and use this time period to become more effective? So how do we apply these technologies? It was great for the Creatio Arena 3-4 weeks ago. There was a conversation around investment versus sit on your cash right now. And what we're seeing is a lot of companies are looking at things like this right now. How can I better improve my processes so that coming out of this, we're in a better shape? So be it, e-commerce or retail or manufacturing or just in period supply chain as a whole, this is an amazing fit to be able to automate some of those processes and ensure that you don't have those breaks.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jason, for that. Let's go to the next question. And I think this one, maybe this one is for Nandish, a good fit. So the question is, how does Creatio low-code CRM compare to other similar solutions? Nandish, would you mind telling us more about that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a broad topic, right? So there are many ways in which you can compare Creatio across other low code. The biggest differentiator that I say is that Creatio is a unique platform that combines CRM with low code, no code technology. So out of the box, it's able to work in the CRM space itself, which oftentimes is not possible in other low code platforms. So they will have to integrate with the likes of other CRMs like, say, Microsoft or Oracle or Salesforce. So that's number one differentiator. Number two is machine language. These days, we are hearing a lot about machine languages as well. So a lot of these other low-code vendors typically tend to sell or monetize their machine language through predictions, giving them maybe a preview of what is possible, but then as you start making more predictions, they start charging you for that. So we don't do that on the creation side, financially speaking. There's also restrictions on APIs, which is another thing that is huge when you build applications. Typically, low code tends to work with a lot of upstream and downstream applications, which means that they need to pull data from, say, an ERP system, process that, synthesize data, and then pass it on to another application or an order management system. So we're talking about APIs, and again, Creatio has unlimited APIs. So those are some of the basic things that I talk about when you think about low code is the ability to build application faster. But more importantly, there is also these additional elements of predictions and APIs that is not often talked about, but they have a significant impact on the total cost of ownership. And that's where Creatio shines over others.
Thank you, Nandish. And actually, I think you already answered another question that was in our chat, which is what about ML? Is it part of Creatio? So I think you already answered. Anything there to add on that?
No, I mean, the only thing I would add on is machine language is part of Creatio, and you can create custom objects. So for example, if a variable, if you want to add a new field, say that does not exist in Creatio, you can very quickly create that low code, no code, and use that very rapidly within the machine language prediction itself. So we're talking about like 5-10 minutes tops to do so. But obviously, you need to train that machine language, so it requires a minimum of 100 records. But it's the user experience we're talking about, and that's where Creatio shines.
Super, thank you for the answer. Another question here, again, I think back to you, Jason. How does low code made it easier than previously? You know, what you would do with CRM itself. Maybe this refers to speed to market, for example. I think that's probably a good point here. So tell us about the differences in how low code really changes the game here for you and your customers.
So I'm going to address this from 2 points, and thank you for the question. I think there's 2 things that you need to look at. One is platform, the other one's ease of design. So if you think about it, you know, and I mentioned that previously when we had done this for CNH, we use Microsoft Dynamics. Well, that's great, but in order to implement any process when you're going into a CRM system, you have to do all your documentation, map out the processes, and then you've got to figure out how to, you know, you've got to have a good analyst to take it from process on paper to code and outcome. What makes that process, and it took us about 18 months as a whole to fully integrate all 12 locations and a central quality system for Dynamics. It was just under 18 months, and that included QA and everything. When we went out and built this POC for this same solution with Studio, because you're defining the processes on the fly in Studio, it completely takes out that translation process in the middle. So instead of having process and maybe even process flows on paper that we did in Visio and then got it on a document that the developers then tried to translate into code, it's all real time. So we were able to replicate that exact same thing in less than 3 months. So if you see, we're talking 5-6 times faster by having the ability to take those process designs using Studio and automatically implement them instead of having to document, translate, code, test. It's all right there. And that's one of the things that we found really valuable about trying to apply this solution to this problem. It's so much faster, and it can be deployed pretty darn quick. And there's no, I'm not going to say that there's a single answer. It will always take X, because a lot of it's going to depend on what system are you hooking into. In theory, we can hook this into any WMS. So if you want to hook it into our Click warehouse management system, if you want to hook it into Manhattan, you want to hook it into Oracle, you want to hook it into SAP, Dynamics, you know, any of those solutions, in theory, if they've got an API that can be accessed, we can get to it. So it just kind of depends on how many different depots, what the backend systems are, but it is much faster, especially when it comes to that process definition, to do it in Studio and on the Creatio platform than trying to do it, you know, in an SDK for one of the major ERPs.
That fits very well with our mission statement, which says we accelerate. So, of course, that's our keyword, and I think it works well, and it looks like it's being proven with what you're doing as well. So we're definitely very proud and happy about that. So just in terms of questions, we have a couple more. Let's do at least two more. We have a question here in terms of, let me read the question. Can HIPAA compliant solutions be developed with this product suite? For example, protection of private and professional information. And this is an open question. I think when we say the suite, it does refer to the combination of the Creatio solution and in this case, reply solution. So Jason, Nandish, can you tell us more about HIPAA compliance in general and how we take care of it with our product suite?
So Nandish, do you want to talk a little bit about how Creatio and the platform handles roles and responsibilities?
Yeah, I can do that. So number one, we are not HIPAA compliant at this point of time. That's because HIPAA compliance is a lot more than just the application. It needs to be certified on the data center level as well. So we got to get a different pod from AWS or Azure or Google, whatever that may be. That's an additional cost and all of that. But specifically from the application side, HIPAA compliance typically tends to be more about medical industry, obviously, but also on the access roles. So you can definitely have various users with different access roles. So for example, you should not be able to see patient chart history if you're not authorized to do so, right? So you can definitely control what kind of records are visible and the amount of records that are visible through the object permissions record within Creatio. So from a technical side, it's definitely possible to limit the information and gray out the information, whatever is possible, and also not being able to make changes to those existing records so that you can keep the patient history confidential and also safe. But I also want to reiterate that we're currently, from a HIPAA perspective, we are not HIPAA compliant. So that's one of the areas that we are not going after right now. But just wanted to say that out.
Yeah, thank you, Nandish, and appreciate the question. One more here is again, I think for both of you gents or maybe Jason, you can try to take this one. Can Creatio be used to build use cases that require end consumers to interact with enterprise system?
So thank you again for the question. I think the answer is absolutely yes. I think one of the great things about this platform is it's almost unlimited on how you can use it. Again, any business process. So one example that I was just thinking about when I saw this question come in that would be fun. I always like to reference Adidas or Adidas when they do their lot size 1 manufacturing, right? So they use a series of e-commerce tied in with their manufacturing ordering to be able to take that inbound order once somebody goes on their web and customizes their order, and then they have to integrate that back down to their manufacturing processes. I think that's a great place where you could put something like Studio and Creatio in, right? So once you get an order inbound from an e-commerce, right, you could have calls that are going on simultaneously back and forth between a front end and a back end with Creatio sitting right in the middle. And it's real easy using the Studio business process to map those out. You can build triggers on the front side. You can build API calls on the back so that it very, very easily links into the front end and back end. So I hope that answers the questions. I think it's a great opportunity out there. And it's something that we're obviously looking at expanding across the entire supply chain, not just in this quality space, but anywhere from back end on the manufacturing all the way up to the customer engagement, which is where Creatio obviously got its start. So
thank you, Jason. I said we're gonna end, but they keep coming, so I'm gonna ask one more question if you don't mind. And the question is, the example that you've presented shows how to manage issues. Could we use it to arrange preventive maintenance as well?
absolutely. And what I will tie into this one here is we're already thinking about that. So there's a great example, right? So we do a lot of work in the manufacturing and the IoT space. Our specialty is Industry 4.0. So if you're thinking about this, you're getting machine data in all the time. It's going into a database. You run an algorithm on that database, or you use potentially even the ML capability here as you're compiling the records inside You could use that to look for variances or tolerances that are outside, or you could take it and pull in machine data coming down for operating hours, and you could build triggers. And off of those triggers, you could ultimately get to the point where you're like, ooh, I need to kick something off. And then that's just a business process. So again, anytime there's a business process here, you could use it, even go so far as once you hit that trigger for, hey, it's time for a PM, kick it off, dispatch it off to a worker, create an open task. That task could be created and managed. Then they come back in and they close the task. I could see building out an entire PM management system inside Creatio. Haven't done it. Nobody's done it yet. I think that's an interesting concept.
For sure. Maybe that's all for another webinar. But just to close, I guess the whole theme and the topic, I guess the question one more we had is the Reply product currently available on the Creatio marketplace?
So we have not published this to Creatio marketplace yet. Ultimately, I want to make it even a little bit better. It's ready for prime time now. But what we'll talk about here, and as we go to the next slide, Lucian, if we can go ahead and advance with the next slide here. We're open to talk to anybody about how to get access to this. I have not deployed it in the marketplace yet, so it's not readily available. We're still holding this one a little bit tight. But if you want to reach out to us and you want to get more information about this, feel free to reach out to us at info.usa@reply.com. Check out our website, reply.com. Also, within the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be launching a new website that's specific for industry. So we'll have a lot more content that's specific to the things that we're doing right now. Reply is a global system integrator. We do a ton, and we've got some categories in there. But we will be launching an industry.reply.com website here in the next couple of weeks. So keep your eyes open for that as well.
Fantastic, thank you, Jason. And that really concludes our webinar today. We really appreciate your time. And I just wanted to give you a couple of notes in terms of the recording. We will make sure to share it with you. We will make sure you have access to the content. And of course, this contact information will be in there as well. So you can refer to it and reach out to our team, reach out to Jason and the Reply team. And at this point, we really, again, thank you for your time. We will hopefully do another session like this very soon with Jason and the team, and we will get into more detail around this topic and beyond. So, but for now, I appreciate everyone's time. Again, thank you, Jason, Maggie, and Nandish. I hope everyone enjoyed this, and we'll definitely be in touch very soon to keep you in loop for next sessions that we have. Thank you again, everyone, and thank you again, the team.